took place on the 28th of November of 1980. Myself and fellow officers, 6 in total, witnessed a UFO. The incidents took place at approximately between 5 AM and 5:15 AM on that morning. A front had come in, a weather front had come in, so the very low thick cloud. When they became aware, below the cloud level was a large blue pulsating ball. It was doing movements, strange movements, not one would expect from a helicopter or an aeroplane of that description. So much so, the movements became so erratic that the police lady, Julie Baxter, got very distressed and got back into the police car. The dog handler, John Porter's dog, started barking loudly at this object, and there was something he sensed, perhaps. The object then came down and what we call buzzed, swooped down and above, and then headed off towards Todmorden. About 5 minutes later, 2 police officers, the names I have not got with me today, and I can't remember, they were in a different police force than ourselves, were sat up Blackshaw Head, which is a moorland road, in a public house car park called the White House, sat there observing below them the town of Littleborough and Rochdale. When they became aware, they didn't see it actually appear. They saw it disappear, but they didn't actually became aware until it was actually there. They saw an object hovering between 2 pylons. So much so, they were both mesmerised by it. They reported this incident to their control room, and one of them did a sketch drawing of what they were witnessing. It was only there for several minutes when it shot off, again in the direction of Todmorden. At approximately 5 minutes later, which would be 5:10 AM, I myself was in a police patrol car heading towards Burnley, a town called Burnley, on the A646. I looked up the main road which I was travelling on, and I saw about approximately 150 yards up in front of it an object. My first reaction was that it was a double-decker bus, but it was a split reaction. Nevertheless, I headed towards this object, and as I got close to it, I got within about 25 yards of the object, and what I saw quite baffled me at first. I thought one of these hot air balloons had come down. Then I thought, 5:10 in the morning, you know. And I realised that this object was actually hovering off the ground. It wasn't. I could see under. As I'm sat in the police car, I could actually see under the object. And it was hovering about 5 feet off the ground. The span of it was taking much of the road up, so it was about 20 feet wide, because the road's pretty narrow just there. And over the top, I could see the road lamps. So I'm estimating the height of the object was about 14 feet. And I'm sat about 25 yards looking at it. I put the blue lights on, headlights, hazard lights, anything you can think of, because this was totally blocking the road. It was diamond in shape. It appeared to be in 2 halves joined together. The bottom half appeared to be rotating. The top half looked like it was stationary, and it also, I thought it had dark windows, panels, windows that went all the way around. That was my impression, but it could have been just dark panelling. But the first impression I had, there was like a limo has darkened windows. That's the impression I got, but it could have been panelling. I was absolutely gobsmacked. What really was worrying, well, not worrying, it's a strange saying worrying, but the bushes and the trees that line the road on this side, on the right hand side, were shaking very, very violently, as though there was a strong wind blowing, but My car was perfectly stationary. I didn't feel any vibrations in the car. I didn't hear any noise. It wasn't emitting any noise that I could hear. I'm watching the object. I tried the UHF personal radio that all police officers carry on them. Well, they do in England. And I tried the car radio, which is on VHF. VHF is a video in VHF. And none of the frequencies I could get through to our control room. And when I was deciding what to do about it, I thought I'll pick me, we carry a pad, a clipboard with all this documents, to issue tickets and all this sort of stuff. And I decided to draw it. While I remember starting to draw it, I can't remember ever finishing the drawing, because at that time there was a large, bright, terribly bright, as though 1,000 photographers had all taken a photograph at the same time, and it was just pure brilliance. And you know that thing you get when you had your photograph taken, you get that blackness. Well, when that blackness had gone, which only a matter of seconds, I was about 40, 50 yards further up the road, actually driving the police car. And if my memory serves me right, the blue light wasn't flashing, the hazard lights weren't flashing, and I didn't have my headlights on, although I was on dipped. I turned the car around, I went back to where this object had been, because it had gone. And on the floor of the road surface, and it had been raining all night. I mentioned the weather front earlier on, but it had stopped perhaps an hour earlier. But the road surface was wet through, but not where this object had been. There was a whirlpool dry surface. There was branches, and when I say branches, I don't mean massive branches. I'm talking, twig type, between a twig and a branch. What I did find interesting about, well, it wasn't interesting, but what I did realise, when this flash had happened, I've timed it, or we timed it, that I'd left the police station at 5 AM. We're all agreed on that. I took a colleague down to the town centre, which is again is about 400 or 500 yards that way from the police station. I dropped him off. I had a very low conversation with him about he was going to check the shops in the town centre, and then turned the car around, drove back past the police station. Another 500 yards up the road, I come across this object. Perhaps there 2, maybe minute 2. I mean, a minute is a long time when you don't know what's going to happen to you. Believe you me. So maybe 2 minutes, but we'll stretch it to 5, shall we? So now we're about 5 past 10 past 5. There's a flash. I've turned the car around. I've had a quick look. Maybe another 5 minutes. Gone home But when I went to the police station, it was 10 to 6. That's why my colleague, who had only just dropped off, had done his patrol and was heading back because we'd all finished at 6 o'clock, and he was heading back to the police station when I called him. There was definitely a large chunk of my life missing.